We're talking with the drummer that you're hearing on that track from the Mountain Goats Bleed Out. You also hear him on records by Bob Mould, Superchunk, and more. It's Jon Wurster joining me on the Indie Rock Hit Parade. I'm Eric Schumann. Jon is behind the drum kit. We're kind of going through his life and career and his personal affection for the drum kit that he is sitting behind. Maybe not this one specifically, although you seem to be enjoying it. Once you got more seasoned through practice and just enthusiasm as a kid and as you're growing up, were there some drum albums that you sought out, or some records that friends or other mentor drummers turned you on to and said, if here, check this out as a drummer?
Well, I'm a rare breed, I think, among drummers in that I don't really love hearing the drums. Like I would never want to see someone just play the drums.
This is eating you up inside.
Yes. So I love songs and I love playing great songs. That's why I'm here. I can't say, other than seeing Buddy Rich. I saw Buddy Rich when I was 12, and it was so amazing. And I don't love drum solos, but he must have done a solo for it was 20 minutes, and it went by like that because he was he was like
so good, and
so
would get up. If you've never seen, there's a great episode of The Muppet Show that he is on where he does one of his drum battles, and he gets up from from his stool, and he gets around and starts drumming on the scaffolding and on the floor and things like that.
I bring him up because he was kind of the only drummer guy that I was just like, oh my God. I always loved songs, and so when I heard The Police for the first time, it was like, oh, this guy's like an insanely great drummer and so original, but the songs are really great. Like they're pop songs. They're memorable songs. And so Stuart Copeland was probably the first of those drummers who I fell in love with his thing.
Another drummer whose technique is probably more complicated than people realize.
Yeah.
Is there a particular favorite of his performances that you can try and maybe emulate in the?
What's interesting about him is that my understanding, just from reading a lot about the Police and how they made records, was that they didn't, other than probably the first record and like Message in a Bottle and stuff on the second one, they would be presented with the songs by Sting that day. Like the day they cut the song was probably the day they all first played it. So his drumming on the records, it's got a little bit of his the craziness, but it's a lot of keeping time and making those transitions when they're supposed to. And then you hear like the live versions from when he actually knows the song,
they're
and
crazy.
it's like a solo. So I love the records. But there are so many, like So Lonely is kind of like it's a pretty regular beat. Like there's not any kind of reggae in it or anything. It's just like, well, someone told me yesterday. It has like a nice swing to it, but they're all the songs are just like that. I used to do that so much. I played in a band. My first real band was called Hair Club for Men, and we formed in 1981. And do you know who Steve Grass is? Does that ring a bell? Steve Grass.
The name does not.
He's a local Philly entrepreneur. The man he was the man behind the resurgence of Sailor Jerry.
Okay.
So he was our bassist.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yeah. And so we lived out in we went to Souderton High School, which is maybe 35, 40 minutes from here, out in the Mennonite farmlands. And so He was our bassist, and our band was called Hair Club for Men, and it was very influenced by the Police, and we would do songs the Ramones covered. So we would do Let's Dance, Do You Want to Dance, all the dance songs, and so our originals were kind of like a little bit of the reggae rock stuff, and so ska, and so I should also say one of the records I played along with a lot was the Dance Craze soundtrack.
That's great, yeah.
And I'm not a big ska guy, but that was one that was really fun to play along with.
Those records, the two-tone stuff from England in the late 70s and early 80s, like it's fun, it's very lively, and kind of like the Police, the rhythms, they're just unconventional enough
Perfect.
to to kind of keep your ear intrigued, or to if you are a drummer, to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, and I remember an interview with Neil Peart in around the time of the first Police album, and in it he was saying there's this new band called the Police, and the drummer's amazing. So like he saw that that there was something there. But Topper Headon from the Clash, huge influence. Pete Thomas from the Attractions. So once I realized I could play along with records, that was all the stuff I played along with the Ramones, Tommy and Marky, and so I kind of stopped taking lessons when I was around 15 because Hair Club for Men was kind of rolling, and I thought I don't need this, and I just kind of learned from playing with people at that point, just kind of learning what people do, and I would advise any drummer to learn to play the guitar or the bass and play along with records, because that's when you realize, oh, if the drummer's just going crazy the whole time, you can't really lock into it, and it's hard to play along with. So once I kind of learned what guitarists and bassists look for in a drummer, that's what I wanted to do.
That's why every band can't have Keith Moon in it.
Exactly. Yeah. Keith Moon in any other band would have sucked, and he even hired Keltner and these other guys to play on his solo record. I don't think he plays drums at all on his solo record.
That's wild to me.